Dr. Usha rightly says, like, if you will protect something only when you fall in love with it. And to love something, you should know about it. Be aware of your surrounding. Just go out and see the tree or any plant in your backyard or in your front yard, wherever, in your own balcony, maybe, like, maybe a butterfly may come there, like, why that butterfly is coming only on that flower. Just find out. Keep yourself curious. So every aspect of our culture is about ecology. So if we do not respect ecology, if we do not learn about ecology, I think we are threatening our culture and our identity per se.
Hi, welcome to Bifocal Naturalist. Our topic today is plant blindness. Plant blindness is sweeping across the globe, and people are unable to distinguish between different plants, leading to loss of plant diversity. To them, everything is green and beautiful, but they can't make out between a peepal and a bhendi tree, or a jamun and a mango, or saptaparini or shiflera. All of them look alike to them. And this loss of plant diversity is leading eventually to loss of biodiversity. Loss of animals, plants, birds, insects, reptiles, and so on. Why is this plant blindness occurring at such a large scale? One of the causes is people are not able to recognize plants. Going out with parents, with community people, into the forest, into the gardens has now disappeared. It is no longer existing. Also, our curriculum focuses more on animals rather than plants. Another factor is it leads to a lot of eco-services loss. Different trees provide different services. And if particular trees are not there, then you may not get the food, timber, or medicines. So we require a biodiversity. And unless all types of plants exist in the forest, we cannot have all eco services. So it's very, very important that we have trees of varied types. Now, how do we increase or rather decrease plant blindness? One important way is to have more plant-based activities. And our guest today, Arti Das, is one such person who is bridging the gap between knowledge and identification of plants. So welcome, Arti. How are you?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm fine. Thank you.
So it's lovely to have you today on our show. So Arti is a freelance journalist and a blogger. And she's written for several local and national papers, leading papers. And she's also very active. She's not just a journalist. She's also very active. She is in the forefront of tree walks in Goa. She's based in Panaji, Goa, in India, and which has magical forests. And she takes people across ages into the forest to show them how to identify trees and how to learn their uses. So, Arti, I would like to know from you, why have you taken up journalism and blogging?
I started my journalism journey around, like, more than 18 years ago now, around 2005, 2006. During my school and college days, I was always fond of writing. And so I felt like journalism was like a natural choice for me because it was easier to get your published your work. And so I got into journalism, and I specifically got into the features section of the newspaper, which involves art, culture, and the non-newsy part of the things, because there I got scope to write and express different aspects of life. So I worked for various local newspapers here in Goa, English newspapers. I worked till 2017 as a full-time journalist. And then in 2017, I took a decision to go to be independent as an independent journalist, because I found that I was not getting enough scope and time to go on field and to a lot of talk to people, understand nature and ecology, because that was my main topic of to write. And also, if you look at art and culture, like indigenous art and culture, it is very much part and parcel of our ecology. It is inspired from our ecology. So for me, it was very important to be on field, to interact with people, go to villages. So I found that if I get into freelancing, I'll get more time in hand. So that was the main purpose I started freelancing. And also 2017 was the year that me and my friend Talula De Silva, she's a renowned architect from Goa, plus she's also an environment educator. So we started this very small tree walking group in the year 2017 with Dr. Usha Desai, who is from Mumbai and a well-renowned tree expert who is from Bombay Natural History Society. She learned from Bombay Natural History Society. So she was our mentor per se, and that's how my journey into learning about ecology and journalism, like how I brought in journalism into ecology started.
Okay, that's wonderful. Actually, I got connected to Arti because she wrote an article on my book on
Yes,
millets,
on Mill.
millets for children. And that led to so many requests, for the book from across India. And my publishers, Indian Women Scientists Association, were very happy with her article, and I was too. And I also know her mentor, Usha Desai, because she's a renowned figure. And she also started tree walks in Mumbai along with Renee Vyas. And then she moved to Goa. And architect Talelua and I were on the same panel for a conference called the Tipping Point Summit by Dr. Kumi Vevaina. So such a nice thing, to have three of your people and, connected to all of them. So Arti, did fantastic work. Her article was beautiful and it was very, very well written. Arti, I would like to know, more about your mentors and how did they mentor you and how were you inspired by them? What inspired you?
Uh, Starting with my first friend and also a mentor is Talula De Silva. I met her because of my journalism. I did a few articles on her architecture because she does a lot of indigenous type of architecture where she uses a lot of local materials, reduces waste on site. So because of that, I started interacting with her and she became my good friend. And we always had a lot of issues in and around Goa, like a lot of environmental and ecological issues. So during one such conversation, I remember it was late at night, we were just chatting, and the whole thing came up like how we can reduce waste because there's so much of garbage around and everything. So at that time, it was the festive season. Like Mumbai, in Goa also, Ganesh Chaturthi is a very important and prominent festival here. So we found that during the Visarjan or the immersion ceremony, people dump a lot of garbage or whatever is like related to the puja is directly dumped into the river along during the immersion of the idol. So we thought to create a little bit awareness about it because I had seen a practice being conducted in the Savantwadi, which is a town next to in Maharashtra, which is very close to Goa. So where I found the whole concept of nirmalyas, like they put up these nirmalya pots around the lake or the rivers, and people are encouraged to submit all these puja related items into it rather than just allowing it to flow into the river. So I thought this was a great initiative. We could start in our city itself, in Panjim itself. So we approached the CCP, the municipal corporation here in Panjim, and they were very welcoming with that idea. So, and we selected the earthen pots, which were designed by Daily Dump. So, with that initiative, we started this immersion. Wherever there were immersion points, we kept those pots And we kept one for biodegradable and one for non-biodegradable. Like during puja, like people also dump like, incense stick boxes, some other thermocol decorations and some other puja related items, because there is a belief that whatever is used for puja, you have to immerse it. You should not keep it at home. And a lot of flour wasted, so flour waste. So then CCP gave us a commitment that they will compost it separately, not with the regular compost, because it was used for puja. So with that initiative, we started around like 2009. We started this, and it became quite popular. Many other cities like Vasco and other places, they started taking this initiative. Until now, the CCP does take this up on a great level. And I shall say that there is now at least some awareness that people know that we should not just immerse these items, and we should keep it for again for reuse or recycling. There is one temple in Ponda where they actually put whatever the flour waste is given to a factory in Pune where they make incense sticks or something like that. So this is all because of this initiative, which I believe we started because it was something very basic, something very niche in a way, but it was very important to talk about it because people didn't realize that how it is impacting the marine biodiversity, especially the plastic waste, which is just flown into the river. And thermocol, as we know, it's a very hazardous material. So all these things were very important to talk. So with this initiative, we started our group called Mission Green. And we started focusing on how to make our festivals green and less to do with garbage. So with that initiative, we started this Mission Green and we did some tree plantation drives. And during this whole exercise, somewhere around, I don't remember the year exactly, but during this whole exercise, I met Dr. Usha Desai. It was a very chance meeting. She took us for a stroll around the park here in Panjim. And that interaction and that walk was like a total eye opener for me. Because right from childhood, I am a product of urban society. Like, no, I am born and brought up in a very urban area. There was no open spaces around my house. There was no garden. We didn't have a backyard, open area, nothing. So I didn't grow up with a lot of greenery around me. But I was always curious to know about plants and trees. So when she started telling me about trees and plants and how to identify them, what are compound leaves, what are simple leaves, why the flower blooms at this time of the year, what is the pollination process, like you mentioned about wasp. She beautifully explains this with the example of the ficus trees and the relationship they have with different types of wasps. So that was like an eye opener. Like no, nobody had taught me about these things in my botany and science class. So I was very intrigued, and so she was very happy with my response, and she said, "Why don't we have a small group here in Goa?" Because she used to come to Goa quite often at that time and stay here for a few months. So she said, "Whenever I am in Goa, I will conduct just one or two walks here." So we were like very enthusiastic about it, like me and Talula. So we just shared this information with our friends, and many like senior citizens and like youngsters, they took part of these walks. And so she was like amazing. And you know, if you know Dr. Usha, she is just amazing. Like she can conduct a tree walk for even for 5 hours, and she will not even she will not even get tired of it at any time. So her energy was very like, very inspiring. And at that time only she told me that because you're a journalist, and I used to write about these works once in a while in my newspaper. So she told me, why don't you write about these trees? Because it will help you to understand them better, and also it will help people to know about them. Because as you mentioned about tree blindness, which is very, very common, and it is only increasing as the days are passing by. So she told me, why don't you start that? So with that intention, I started this tree blog, where I start blogging about a tree every month. So I started in March 2020, just before the pandemic. And journey is continuing. I have documented 57 trees till now. So yeah. That's about my journey with trees.
So could you tell us, about the forests of Goa and what are the
Yes.
endemic trees or anything getting endangered, extinct, rare trees of Goa?
One common tree which we find in forest of Goa are this matti tree, like Terminalia elliptica. So
Okay.
it is also one of the state trees of Goa.
Mm-hmm.
It is commonly found, but if you ask somebody to identify them in Goa, I don't think anybody can easily identify them,
Mm-hmm.
even though it is a state tree of Goa. One common feature of this is it has a very distinct bark. So it is also known as crocodile bark tree. So it's very common. Its fruit, its pods, I should say, not exactly fruits. Its pods are very important. They are used for matoli decoration during Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa.
Uh-huh.
So matoli is like a canopy which is above the Ganesh idol, which is decorated with all types of flowers, fruits, tubers, roots, everything which is available in that season. And many a times it contains not only edible but highly toxic, medicinal, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like environmentalist Rajan Kerkar always says that Matoli is actually the storyboard to tell younger generation how to identify your forest and the products of your forest. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why you also include toxic and medicinal plants. So you should be able to identify which is toxic when you go to forest to get your medicinal plants or something like that. So it is a very important tree per se. There is another species called Terminalia paniculata. So that's actually fruiting at this stage now. No? It's a beautiful red color, pods it generates. It's beautiful to look at. Many a times people confuse them with its flowers. Its flowers are very pale, like cream color, but its pods are beautifully red color, and it's very Christmassy. I feel because December is the time of Christmas in Goa. So when it blooms, it gives us such a pleasant feeling. If you go to Goa's forest, it's a very commonly found tree there. Another important tree found in Goa's forest is the fishtail palm. So fishtail palm is very important. Lot of its wood is very important. Lot of agricultural tools are made from the fishtail palm wood. And also, like in Goa, feni is very popular. The alcohol feni is very popular. Traditionally, they say it's the coconut feni which was that inspired the cashew feni. But if you go even ahead, even behind, you will realize that first the toddy was made from this fishtail palm, this thing. So these are the various aspects about the forest which are which I am not exactly an expert on Goa's forest because it's a very daunting task, because we are blessed with Western Ghats and there are hundreds of species, and every time when I go, I find new species. And also another one is the false Ashok, which is known as the ghost tree. That also is very important tree in Goa's culture, because again its leaves are used for Gauri Puja, Ganesh Puja and Gauri Puja, again during Chaturthi. Many medicinal leaves are wrapped in the false Arjun leaf, and it is offered to Ganesh. So there are such various types of trees, and like it's amazing. Like there's one shrub known as Kevni. So the fiber of it's used to tie all the maturi items, and only of that plant it should be used. So when I started understanding about ecology, it also gave me scope to understand about Goa's culture and religious practices, which are not just, I will say, not just ritualistic in a sense. There is a lot of thought behind it. It's like a local and indigenous wisdom. Sadly, we have no knowledge of. If I asked a common one, like to identify the maturi items, he will not able to identify beyond the edibles. Like lot vegetables are also used for maturi decoration. So if I tell him to identify forest species, sadly he will not able to identify because because we are not taught that way in our schools and during our learnings also. Sadly,
Very interesting because Matoli in Goa, sometimes the whole ceiling turns into a Matoli.
yes.
Yeah, it's so
Yes,
beautiful.
yes,
We do
yeah,
Ganesha, but the on top we have a very small one, and we hang
yes.
fruits and vegetables. But I think Goa is spectacular. And another thing about the fish.
So, one estimate, it says that around 300 to 350 items are used for maturi, like different types,
Okay.
And now the Goa government is also organized a maturi competition
Mhm.
through its art and culture department. So now there's a lot of enthusiasm among local youngsters, to make this type of very huge maturis, yeah. So if
Interesting.
you want to understand Goa's forest, you should know Maturi. It's
Yes,
like
I
a
agree.
gateway to
Yes.
Goa's forest.
Even the fishtail palm, it
Yes,
attracts the hornbills. In Konkan,
yes, yes,
yeah, if you see the fishtail palm, the hornbills are there because today
yeah,
hornbills need very tall trees, to nest and all
yeah.
that. So fishtail palm is one. Why are these flowers? You were talking about, I think, Terminalia paniculata. Why are the flowers
Hmm.
tiny but the fruit so attractive? Why do you think
Yeah,
it's like that?
yeah, the red ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So why is it like that? Why are the flowers insignificant but the fruit so flashy? Probably to attract pollinators.
Could be. I am not an expert, so I don't know,
Okay.
but it looks so beautiful. If you just go to Goa's forest now, it is started flowering now. So it's amazing to look at. Maybe to attract pollinators, it could be yeah.
Probably, but it's very interesting. Even the ghost tree. I mean, why is it called the ghost tree?
Because of its bark, it is it shines in the night. They say in the moonlight, the bark, it's shining, it's silvery bark.
Yes.
So whenever somebody is walking in the forest at nights, it looks like a somebody, like a human standing, with arms out.
Yes.
So it looks like a image of a
Ghost.
ghost, so that is the common this thing. Actually, I found this tree very common in Madhya Pradesh, actually, when we had gone
Uh-huh.
to Madhya Pradesh
Okay.
area. So it was
Okay.
very commonly seen there. In Goa's forest, you have to search, to find this
Uh-huh.
tree. But in
Okay.
Madhya Pradesh, when we had gone, it was easily seen. Also, there's a lot of cultural relevance to that tree in Madhya Pradesh also, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And Goa, because of the Chaturthi, it's mainly used for that.
Yeah.
But
In
again, I have to say that it is in Goa, the thing is that the forest also differs. If you go to coastal areas, the forest is different. If you go to the hilly areas, the forest is different. So the Maturi practices are also different. In
Mhm.
the coastal areas, you will find a lot of palm species being used, and
Mhm.
in the forested area, a lot of forest species are used. So there's also this type of diversity within Goa itself. So that's very interesting.
That's really interesting. Even in Bombay, we find a couple of ghost trees. They're still there. I think it's
Yeah.
Terminal Gurens. Yeah, you find a lot of these, not a lot, but some fragments. I would like to know, more. How is urban biodiversity important in contemporary times?
So when we talk of urban areas, cities and metros, we always talk about the skyscrapers, bridges, flyovers, traffic. But one very important aspect of any city are the biodiversity around it. If I talk about Goa or the Panjim in specific, we are surrounded by wetlands, and Panjim is actually a reclaimed land. It was a pure wetland. If we look at before 150 years, before it was formally announced as a capital city, it
Mhm.
was a pure wetland. It was a marshy land, a lot of prone to a lot of diseases and everything. So at that time, it was reclaimed slowly and steadily, which resulted in what it is today. So we have, if you go to around the border areas of Panjim city, you will find a lot of wetlands here. And these wetlands are very important because they behave like sponges. Like Goa receives a lot of rainfall, and this helps us from flooding.
Mhm.
So during our walks, we try to talk about these aspects of urban biodiversity, why we need trees around us. In Panjim, you find some 100 species of trees. So why we need these trees? Like, in Goa, in Panjim, we have this very famous Dayanand Bandodkar road, which is named after the first chief minister of Goa. It is in the area of Kampal, which leads to the very famous Miramar beach. So it is lined with rain trees, and they were planted around 1930s or 1940s. So there's a very specific reason why they were planted there, because the rain trees could arrest the winds which were coming from the coast. So that was the main reason why they were planted. There are around 30 plus rain trees are there, and these rain are beautiful. Not only look at, they give so much of beauty and like splendor, because it's known for its canopies, like huge canopies, like what rain trees. So they are also like you will come across a lot of orchids growing on them, lot of butterflies, bees. They attract when it starts flowering in the spring season. So, and gives us immense shade, like, in winter it starts shedding its leaves. So, with the breeze, it's nice to look at. And then as the spring approaches, it starts getting new leaves and flowers. So, in summer, it's fully covered, like, so our road is fully covered with this tree. So, it gives us immense shade, beauty, and like, fresh air. Then another tree which is very important is the Java olive tree. These are very tall trees, like, very ideal for urban spaces because it doesn't take much space to grow. And traditionally, these trees were planted outside the church in Goa because they believed that it could arrest this lightning effect which will fall on the church bell. So that was the main reason why they were planted there. Similar is the Saptaparni tree. Like, again, it doesn't take much space to grow. Again, it grows very tall, like, 30 meters or even more, like, So these trees are not just pretty to look at, but they have so much reason why we need them. And many a times, like in Panjim city right now, the smart city work is going on. And many a times we have come across, they just cut down old trees, like very old heritage trees. A few months ago, they cut down a very old more than 100-year-old banyan tree, which people, locals used to worship, which was just outside a temple, a Ganesh temple. But it was just relentlessly cut down, and when citizens started making noise, they just haphazardly translocated it to the area on a parade ground close by, within like 1 kilometers or less than that. But now when you look at it, it's not, it is uh, try hard to survive. It may not survive at all because the whole biodiversity is killed with it. Because, and as you know, banyan trees attract so many birds, so many bees, a specific species of wasp. They say if there's a threat to that species of ficus, then it's a threat to that species of wasp also. So how to make people know about these things? Because many a time, as I mentioned, urban people do not even know how to identify trees. Even if somebody wants to save a tree, the guy who is cutting, he will tell you, can you name this tree? At least he will should able to name that tree, what tree it is, and to know why we need that tree. So many a times we have come across this issue now again in the area called Porvorim, just next to the Panjim city, the satellite city of Panjim, which is known as Porvorim. They are cutting more than 60 trees for another one flyover there, another bypass road. So now there is agitation to save another very famous banyan tree, which is considered as 200-year-old. And people are having a candle march there to make people aware about this tree, that do some bifurcation or some change in the plan to save that tree because it is culturally very important. People do a lot of rituals there, like Vatta Purnima rituals are held there. It's a very culturally very symbolic because here the Devsar is worshipped. Devsar is like a guardian deity of Goa. It's worshipped under that tree. So there are a lot of socio-cultural aspects in urban biodiversity itself, which is told through trees, I will say. And today's younger generation, even my generation, like doesn't know. Even my previous generation may not know because that knowledge is not passed on because they themselves are not aware. So during my tree walks, I also try to talk about these aspects of urban biodiversity. What is urban biodiversity? Is it just trees or like land mass and how it impacts us all? So that's what I try to do with my tree walks. I try.
No, that's very interesting because trees were protected because we always gave some sacred connotation to trees and also cultural. So that is how, for
Yes.
generations we have protected. But today, we tend to ignore or subdue all these things, which is leading to indiscriminate felling of trees. Arti, I want to know what is your protocol when you conduct a tree walk? What do you do and how is it, what is the process of a tree walk?
So as I mentioned, my mentor is Dr. Usha Desai. So she always told me how to conduct in a way, not like formally, but I learned looking at her.
Mhm.
So we select not all the trees of a garden or a park, maybe like 20 trees maximum, because talking about one tree may take a lot of time. So we select around 20 trees, we make a list, we share that list with our participants when they are coming for the walk. And then my focus is to talk about not just talking about the scientific aspect, but as I mentioned, the cultural aspect, some historical events related to that tree of that particular area, like the planting of the rain trees in Kampal. It's very important to know why they were planted and who planted them. So talking about historical aspect, maybe some mythological stories related to it, some reference, maybe some song, some film scene, maybe like whatever, like no piques interest of layman, like no. That is how you get into understanding anything. Because if I talk about botanical jargons, only of the botanical names, it may put off the participants because not everybody is like well versed with these names. Even I'm still struggling to identify tree to remember these names. So and I'm not a botanist, so I understand what other must be understanding. So with that aspect, I conduct my tree walks, and I also restrain from giving any medicinal knowledge about any plant because I am not a trained doctor nor a botanist. So there could be a lead to some misinformation, so anything like that. So I just do not encourage anybody tasting any fruit or any crushing any leaf or anything like that. So and just make it more like informal, where people also bring in their information. Like some elderly person may tell some stories about their childhood related to a particular tree, so I encourage them to tell their story. So it becomes like a more like an interactive session where everybody's sharing information about trees and nature per se. Like no, so it becomes very informal too, and not just like you're coming to learn something. You're coming to share your inputs basically.
So, Arti, I'm very fascinated and curious. You talked about songs related to trees and Bollywood. I'm assuming when you say films, it is Bollywood. So, can you give us some references, maybe
Yes,
a
yes.
clip of a song? If you could sing one line
I
or two,
can't
at least
I can't
one.
recollect now
Okay.
exactly. Like maybe like some like palash, maybe like palash flowers are very beautifully used in so many songs and even in poems. Even Gulmohar for that matter, like like Gulzar, I think wrote poems on Gulmohar tree and its flowering. So all these aspects, like like little bit here and there, like and some maybe sometimes like I learned this from Dr. Usha actually. I'm not very well versed with it, like she may suddenly start singing some poem of Rabindranath Tagore or maybe something like that. Like, it's very interesting.
वे गुण है तीन, रंग रूप और बास, अवगुण तुझ में एक है, भंवरा आए न पास। वाह, क्यों बताओ।
And it's a ongoing process. I have not mastered my skill in it as such.
So I attended one walk where, Dr. Desai's partner, Renee Vyas was there, and she was singing about the champa, the Plumeria
Yes, yes, yes,
alba, which she says, this is actually because that is not native to India. The other champa,
yes.
the
It's
stone
from
sapphire,
Cuba,
attracts a
yeah.
lot of bees and butterflies and got a fragrance. But this plumeria, frangipani, doesn't attract insects or birds, and it doesn't have the fragrance of
Yeah, it doesn't have nectar, yeah.
nectar. Yes, that's the thing. So it was very
So it
interesting.
is pollinated by a moth, which
Yes,
has a long proboscis, like,
yes, yeah.
so it goes searching for a nectar, and that whole process it pollinates the flower. Like,
Flowers,
so
yes.
it's very fascinating. Yeah.
Correct. It's very fascinating. No, pollination is very fascinating once really
Yes, yes, yes.
understand the flower and the pollinator, how intrinsically they're connected. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So I
It
want
is known as pollination by deception.
pollination by deception. Absolutely,
Yeah,
bang
yeah,
on.
yeah.
That's very nice. I would like to know, is there any emotional connect with any particular tree? Are you deeply connected with any particular tree?
To say any particular tree, I am connected to all the trees emotionally because I have this like very inborn connect to trees. I feel that trees always talk to me when I'm around them, but one specific tree I would like to mention is the Saptaparni, which you also mentioned in your introduction.
Yes.
In Goa, it is also known as Devil's Tree because it blooms at this and during the arrival of winter in Goa, and its flowers are very heavily scented, many a times people even get headaches because of its scent. So because of this maybe because of this reason, people locals never said they do not go around this tree, especially at night. It's a devil's residence and something like that. So it is locally it is known as Satan, Satan means devil.
Huh.
Why I'm emotionally connected to this tree, because this was the first tree I learned to identify. When I went for these walks with Dr. Usha, she showed me this tree, which was in this joggers park here. So there's a beautiful tree there, and it used to flower. It flowers in October when we are just arrived during the winter season, and it's beautiful to look at. Like, it attracts again so many bees and butterflies, and it's just stunning. I just love its smell. Like many people get shunted, it love its smell. It's also it's again a cultural relevance here. Its bark is used to make a very concoction, like medicinal concoction. Its bark is sliced and boiled in water, and this concoction is people have it on the day of the Diwali here in Goa. So this is a very tribal custom. It is not followed throughout Goa. Like some communities in the regions of Sattari Taluka in Goa, they follow this custom. So because it is considered medicinal and to get rid of some stomach ailments. And as we know, Diwali is the time where there's a transitionary phase. There's a change in season from monsoon to winter. So your immunity gets down at this time of the day. So it is considered to have this type of concoction, which will help you to brave the change in season. Again, the small fruit which is tasted on the day of Diwali is called carrot. Belongs to the cucumber family. Again, it's grown wild. It's like a creeper which grows wild in forests. So again, it is eaten again to get rid of some stomach ailments. So every aspect of our culture is about ecology. So if we do not respect ecology, if we do not learn about ecology, I think we are threatening our culture and our identity per se. So it's very important why we should learn about our trees and biodiversity. I feel because it is part of our identity.
Absolutely. In fact, my co-author, Dr. Sweedle Serejo Shivkar, and I are coming out with a book which talks about the emotional connect between people and plants. We're
Yeah,
looking at about 50 odd
yeah.
trees and the connection people have with them. This is, of course,
Wow.
sponsored by Dr. Firoza Godrej of the Godrej Foundation. Yes, So I've absolutely
That's
blown
great.
away
Looking
when
forward.
you talk. Yes, when you spoke about the Saptaparani, I call the Saptaparani the scholar's tree rather than
Yes,
the
it's also
devil's
known as
tree.
scholars tree. Yeah.
Yeah, because the blackboards were made out of it. And Rabindranath
It was
Tagore,
also Tagore's favorite tree. Yeah.
absolutely, in Shantiniketan, they used to give one leaf to every graduate, when they're passing out parade,
Yeah.
one leaf. Of course, today they give the whole congregation one leaf, for
Yeah. Yeah.
conservation. Yeah, so it was very, very
He
dear
believed
to
in
me.
the knowledge is like comes from seven direction, like the seven leaves of the Saptaparni. So
Yes,
that's why he gifted that.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
Saptaparni means 7 leaves. So I would like to know, what is your message for our viewers?
Message is only thing that I'll say, like, no, just be little bit more aware about your own surroundings.
Mhm.
Sadly, in our schools and colleges, we learn everything about the world, like, about far from the world of Antarctica, of Africa, or like, it's important to learn that, definitely. But sadly, in our syllabus, we never learn about our own backyard biodiversity. That is my, like, topic very close to my heart, because it's very for me it's very important to know which tree is in my backyard, like, which bird is coming and perching on that tree, which flowers are flowering in which season. So for me it's very important to know that, because until and unless I am aware of my backyard biodiversity, when I say backyard, means your own surrounding where you stay, so then you can make choices based on that. Tomorrow, if there is some development work is happening, you can raise your voice because you are aware what is the biodiversity around you and why you need that biodiversity around you, and what steps you can take to make it more, like, make the whole development more sustainable. So and as Dr. Usha rightly says, like, if you will protect something only when you fall in love with it. Otherwise, it's just like, it doesn't work. And to love something, you should know about it. So that is the whole process, like, so I will just make tell youngsters or whoever is listening, like, just be aware of your surrounding, just go out and see the tree or any plant in your backyard or in your front yard, wherever, in your own balcony, maybe, like, maybe a butterfly may come there, like, why that butterfly is coming only on that flower, just find out, keep yourself curious, so that will, I believe, will take you places.
Thank you very much, Arti. It was really wonderful. And I simply loved what you said, to only if you love something will you care for it and nurture it. Even people, once we know I'm connected, I know your name, I know what you do, I can identify you. So can you, identify me. And that's how we develop bonds and relationship and we care for each other.
Yes.
So it's very, very important to learn about it. It's only when you learn that you can develop love and liking for it. I mean, you walked us through so many interesting things, fascinating facts of the forests of Goa, the ghost trees which
Yes.
in the night. Yeah, I love ghost stories, and my readers, I've written a book called Choddo Shak, where I talk about ghosts of Bengal. And I think ghosts are
Yes.
always fascinating. And you spoke about plants, trees, lots of trees from the Sterculia family, and also about the Saptaparini, your blogs. I mean, you've written about 50 different blogs on different trees, and every month you're documenting. Documenting is very important. We lack that in our country. I was in this
Yes.
garden, the Lost Gardens of Elgin in England. And there, they were
Mm.
redeveloping this garden, which had gone into complete disuse. So they wanted to know where the hydraulic system was. So, they put up a notice in the newspapers, anyone can help us. And it was so strange. One young gentleman whose great, great, great grandfather had actually worked on the hydraulic system. And he had maintained such meticulous records that he said, from some particular place, you walk 100 steps to the right and then turn left and walk another 20 steps and so on. And you dig. And when they dug at that spot, they not only found the whole hydraulic system working, but there were also spares over there. So it is,
Oh,
yes, it's very good that you're documenting. I mean, you're doing a service to the future generations. I really thank you. And so how that has been translated, the waste from the temple, the flowers, is now moved to Pune, and how incense sticks are made out of it. See, there are also so many other things. You could also make a potpourri using this. You could extract dye from the marigold. So many things besides the compost. So many products can be made. It's very nice to see your work being translated into action. Thank you very much, Arti. I look forward to meeting you someday. I mean, we are connected.
Yes, sure.
Yes, so much, but it's nothing like meeting in today's world. We need to meet physically. Thank you very much, and God bless you.